Toronto Blue Jays look like a brand new ball club after their sweep in Boston. Now, this team has been up and down all season long, but a lot of their success in the past 3 games has a lot to do with Davis Schneider, and he's actually had a historic start to his career. So we'll break that down and much more on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse, and we're running out of words to describe what Davis Schneider has done early on in his major league career, and we're trying to find a nickname for him. Now, Nick, I texted you one. I said I'm going to be calling him Big Daddy D from now on because this guy swings with a purpose every time he's in that batter's box. He's so fun to watch, man. He's been phenomenal. His swing decisions have been great in that batter's box, and he does not look overmatched at all by these major league pitchers.
No, it was a weekend that was well needed for the Blue Jays and very, very important, series win, which may have gotten lost in all this Davis Schneider hype. But before we get into the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Your sports and great. We're on the road to 8,000. And Peter, we'll break down the whole game today. It's going to be a good old game recap highlighting Davis Schneider. But let's just look at, let's highlight Davis Schneider here for a second. 4 for 5 with 4 RBIs. He hit another home run. I don't even know. I'll show you a couple clips of his home run and him who made history today, and we'll go over that in a minute. But unbelievable out of Davis Schneider, and is it crazy to say he may have been the missing piece and maybe even better than any addition the Jays could have got at this trade deadline?
Well, we got to wait and see a little bit more. Obviously, it's only been 3 games. He's been on fire. He's been tearing the cover off the ball thus far at Fenway Park. But we got to see. He's going to go through ups and downs. He's not going to hit 700 for the rest of the season. So we've got to be able to judge him after maybe a month in the major leagues. And we got to see how he adjusts to pitchers adjusting to him. So I'm excited for that part. I saw some talk on Jays Central after the game or the Jays post-game show, whatever you want to call it. And they were saying they would just keep Davis Schneider in the 3-hole. I don't know if I would go that far. Maybe he's not quite ready for that yet, but he has been a revelation thus far coming up, and something that the Blue Jays needed. They needed some life in this lineup, and Davis Schneider is providing that and much more.
Yeah, and again, looking at the stats here, he went 4 for 5, and he made history, Peter, with a couple of hits, and I'll show you both of them. Let's start with the home run in the 4th inning, an absolute moonshot, kind of similar to the one he hit in his first major league home run, except this one was off a fastball. An absolute moonshot, and he has the swagger, he has everything. John Schneider loves him, and he also got this little hit which made history off a position player. But let's ignore the position player part. He would have hit that home or that single off of any pitcher. It could have been anyone in the league. But Peter, he made history. If you want to spit out this stat here.
Yeah, and he's the first player in MLB history, not Jays history, MLB history, to have 9 hits and 2 homers in his first 3 games in the major leagues. So he went 3 for 3 yesterday, 4 for 5 today, and had that big-time home run in Game 1 and beat out an infield single. So he's doing it all. He's putting the bat on the ball. Strikeouts are going to come and go with Davis Schneider. That's a part of his game, but he did cut down on that a lot this season. So he's going to be someone that's very important throughout the rest of the season, and I hope he still gets to play every day. Don't take him out of the lineup. See how far this hot streak can take you if you're the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, and for all the talk about Davis Schneider being better against righties compared to lefties and things like that, he crushed some pitches off of lefties today, and I suspect that he's going to be in there every day for the foreseeable future because, there's no reason not to have him in there. I know it sucks for Santiago Espinal, but Davis Schneider is you can make an argument that he almost won us a few of the games this series. Brendan Belt said that in his post-game yesterday. He at the very least contributed heavy. He gave the offense some well-needed spark as, looking at some of the other guys, and Whit Merrifield had a pretty rough series, but Brendan Belt's been, off the charts this season. George Springer seems to have his bat back after 40-odd appearances of just horrible, hitting there. Matt Chapman, Kevin Kiermaier, hopefully he's okay. Paul DeYoung's getting, starting to get a couple of hits here and there, but he's there for his defense. But regardless, Davis Schneider needs to be in there every day. He's giving a well-needed boost to the lineup. And looking at this lineup today, and I was kind of, a bit hesitant with the actual lineup. You have Espinal, you have Biggio, you have Davis Schneider in the 3-hole, you have Vladdy off, you have Bo Bichette out, you have Danny Jansen out. They came out there and they absolutely destroyed the Red Sox. So very, very good out of them. Any final thoughts on the hitting before we talk about the pitching and Chris Bassett, who deserves some love as well?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and this was so well needed for the Toronto Blue Jays. Bo Bichette is out of the lineup, of course, and we can all agree that he's been their best hitter this season. and we weren't sure what to expect of Davis Schneider. We said he might be able to help in the regards that they've been struggling in, but we did not expect this sort of output from the gate. And it was great to see George Springer lacing the balls all over the place today. I mean, he was struggling so much, like you touched on, Nick, and he's just been hitting the ball hard in the past couple of games. Went 4 for 4 yesterday, hit three balls 100 plus miles an hour today. So he's, I don't know if he's back, but you could see that stroke starting to get a little bit more comfortable for George Springer, and that's something that is going to be very well needed for the Blue Jays team going forward as well.
Yeah, and I don't want to, say the B word, which is back. I don't know if I want to say the Blue Jays are necessarily back yet, but a sweep of the Red Sox puts them 5 games back, and of course the Mariners and the Yankees are starting to, heat up a little bit, but what an important series against an AL East rival, which is something we haven't been able to say at all throughout the season. But let's quickly touch on the pitching a little bit here. And Chris Bassett, he came into the game with a 4 ERA. It's moved down now to, I believe, a 3.87. And he's been a guy who, despite a 4 ERA doesn't sound great, but it seems like he's just had a very, very strong season. The contract is looking very, very solid. He goes 7 innings. 7 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. Didn't have his best control, but again, Chris Bassett's a weak contact guy. He's going to give up his fair share of hits. He had 2 hits in 1 inning that were both, really softly hit. So you could, scratch 2 of those up there. He limited the contact. And again, when you have a defense behind you like the Blue Jays have, which has been, it's unbelievable to watch every single day. The outfield defense. Now we have Paul DeJong, who's a wizard at shortstop. Perfect fit for Chris Bassett to limit his runs given up, and he continued his hot season today.
Speaking of defense, though, let's hope Kevin Kiermaier is okay. He had to exit the game after cutting his elbow on the garage in center field. You don't hear that every day, but whatever. I'll digress. Let's move on. But Chris Bassett, this was a start that was very well needed as well for the Toronto Blue Jays because they go through these periods where they play a lot of close games and they overuse their bullpen arms. It was great to have a couple of more lopsided victories in this series to be able to give that bullpen a full reset. You had 17 games in 17 days coming up in this stretch here, and you managed to not have to use any of your high leverage guys apart from Eric Swanson yesterday to wrap up that save. So it was very good. It was very good out of Chris Bassett, and he's just been Mr. Reliable all season long. He won't blow you away with this stuff. He's not going to light up the radar gun, but he's going to go out there. He's going to give you everything he has, and he's going to throw upwards of 105 to 110 pitches for you every outing, and you can count on that. Whether it's going well or not, he's going to go out there and he's going to eat some innings for you, and that's what we expected coming into the season out of him.
Yeah, and following the brutal Baltimore series, we've had a lot of Jays fans in shambles. We come out and we do exactly what we have to do against the Boston Red Sox. And quickly looking ahead before we wrap up, the Cleveland Guardians starting tomorrow. Jose Ramirez is going to be suspended. We don't know if he's going to appeal. We don't know when that's going to start, but obviously he got in a bit of a fight last night against Tim Anderson. Go check it out if you haven't already seen it. But that bodes very, very well for the Blue Jays because Cleveland are not a very good offensive team. Without Jose Ramirez, they're even worse. They'd be some of the worst in baseball. And with the way the Jays pitching staff and the hitters are starting to play now, I don't want to call a sweep again, but the Jays need to go ahead and win this series and take care of business. Any quick thoughts on that before I wrap up?
Yeah, Cleveland's a very weak team right now, and they got worse after the deadline. So you got to take advantage. And if you want to be a playoff team, if you want to be serious come October, you got to go out there and you got to take care of business against these lesser teams. You don't want to say sweep, Nick, but I'll say it. The Jays got to go out there and win 3 in a row against Cleveland.
And I think they'll do exactly that. But that'll wrap up the video. A very, very fun day of Blue Jays baseball. A very fun weekend. And we'll see you guys in tomorrow's video where hopefully the Jays can start a sweep of the Guardians.